Good morning, people. We're back here once again. If you tuned into last week's episode, you know I had a massive foul trying to clean out the tanks on this. Obviously it's 1979, they were original tanks, full of rust on the inside. So I tried a couple of tricks last week and it didn't work too well. So this week I've actually read a few of you guys' comments and been recommended a few more things to try. So I'm going to try and clean out all that rust in the tanks. After work, like this past week, I've been just spraying the tanks with like a hammerite spray. Just trying to clean up like the kind of surface rust on the outside. Most of it's going to be hidden on the inside of the frame and like underneath anyway, so you're not going to see it. But I did my best to like color match everything. And then I'm going to tidy up some of this wiring, which is excessively long. And I'm also going to like clean up and polish the rocker boxes on this. A few people have given me some like tips and tricks, and I've already tried already, but they haven't come up like amazingly well. I've also like kind of cleaned out the fins in the engine, but I'm going to give that another go too. So hopefully this weekend, all of this will be back together, tanks will be clean, and we'll be good to go for a little ride, hopefully. So hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. Okay, so here's the tanks that I've kind of given a little clean and a spray and got some of that surface rust off. There's a little bit of overspray in places, but I'm not too precious about it. But I think the outside of them have actually come up a hell of a lot better. Just cleaning out those inside bits now. So the first thing I'm going to do is try a Coca-Cola soak. A few people have said trying that, as you can see behind me here. I honestly don't think it's going to do too much in there. I think the rust severity is a lot worse, but I'll try that for the first night. I mean, it's Saturday night here, I just finished work, so I'll leave that for soak overnight, and then maybe Sunday evening I'll take it out, give it a clean, see what they're looking like. It's absolutely freezing, so I've had to put some clothes on, but once we're waiting for those tanks to derust over there with the Coca-Cola, like I said, it's probably not going to do anything, but I'm going to sort out this like extra long wiring that's on here. So I'll disconnect the battery, snip the wires, and then resolder them shorter and just put some heat shrink over the top. Hopefully that will stop anything rubbing on there like the tanks or the seat and stuff. Just give it that little bit of extra protection on there. Go. All done, looks a lot neater now, a lot tighter. Kind of just noticed that the little brown wire was just running on the head there as well, so I've managed to pin that back a little bit too. Now I'll get on to cleaning and polishing the heads, and hopefully that tank will be good to give a little shake out and clean out in a bit. So the Coca-Cola soak done pretty good, to be fair. Someone else told me to put dishwasher tablets in there just to give that a try, so I'm just going to do that, see how that kind of comes out. I'm just waiting on derust to come through the post, which is what most people recommended me for cleaning out the tanks. To be fair, I'm quite happy with how they're kind of showing up already, but I'm just going to try a few little things and just try my best just to get it all cleared out. So right now I'm going to do the polishing and sanding of the rocker boxes on the shovel. I did actually go over briefly with 1000 grit sandpaper on there and a polish just to see what they looked at, but there's just a few scuffs and stuff like that on there. So I'm just going to start on a 240 grit, 500, 1000, and then just go up from there and then do a polish after. But I'll show you what they're looking like now. When I got them, they were a lot worse than this, but and then I'll do a little comparison at the end. that's all the sanding done. Now just time to polish. If anyone was wondering what I used to do the sanding and the polishing on the rocker boxes on there, I started on a 240 grit on the sanding pads on just a random orbital sander. Went from 240 grit to 500 grit, 1000 grit, then 1500, 2000, 2500, 3000 grit. And then just give that a little rub down, and then I just went through with Autosol metal polish and just a couple of little polishing pads just in a drill, and then just hand polished it as well. But I think they've come up great. Now on to just cleaning out these tanks. I've just done a couple of other little soaks just in between stuff that I've already done already. So I've done another load of the white vinegar on there, and I'm just going to clean that out. And then I've bought Evapo-rust, which a lot of people have told me to get. I just bought a 5 litre bottle of that. I'm going to put that in there overnight. Hopefully by tomorrow it should all be free of rust. Okay, so while I wait for the Evapo-rust to clean out the tanks, I'm just going to take off the air filter and then give the air filter a little clean and just re-oil it and then stick it back in. Might as well make use of the time while I'm waiting around doing nothing. Alright, to my surprise, the air filter looks pretty new and clean, to be honest. So I'll just kind of re-oil it because it doesn't look like it's got any oil on there, and put it back together. So that was a nice easy job. Alright, you do have to be really careful with making sure you kind of oil it in between every fin on the air filters there. You can over oil them, so you just got to be a little bit careful and make sure you kind of get in between each little bit. So just constantly spinning it around and just adding a little bit at a time works a treat. Alright, it's amazing how that Evapo-rust has worked. It's cleared up most of the rust. It would look almost new, you know, which is totally rad. So I'm going to try and stick the tanks back on now. I've bought all new fuel lines for it, so I'm going to replace all the fuel lines, brand new petcock, everything should be sweet after that. I took the front indicators off last night as well, just while I was waiting for that to work in the fuel tanks there. I will take off these rear indicators too, but I've got new shocks to put on here, so I actually need to take off these fender struts to get to the indicators on the back. But yeah, I'll just do a quick time lapse of just me figuring out how to put these fuel tanks back on and plumbing them up. Alright, that's the tanks back on. Now just time to plumb them all up. Should be a pretty smooth sailing job, hopefully. Then we'll fill it up with petrol and then start it up to see how it runs. Alright, that's all the bike back together and all plumbed up. Now I've just got to run it and just see if it's leaking anywhere. Fingers crossed it doesn't, but there was a few bits that I actually really struggled to get the fuel line on, like on the fuel filter on there, it was just so wide on the end. I think it must have been a 1/2 inch fitting on the end. I'm trying to sham a 1/4 inch onto there. I just had to use like a heat gun and just try and just squeeze it on the best I could. So I think if it's going to leak anywhere, it's going to be from there. But I put a bit of petrol in it, start it up, just check over for leaks. It is still like quite icy and wet outside, so I'm not sure if I'll get out for a ride, but you know, I might start it and just be like, hell, let's just go around the block or something. So yeah, I'll let you guys hear it now. that was a success. No fuel leaking anywhere. Everything was just running and idling absolutely fine. It was so good for me to get out on this bike. I've never ridden a Shovelhead before, and just feeling everything is just so different. It's a little bit clunky, and I actually lost my fuel cap as well. That was just rattling around and just flew off. I kind of thought that was going to happen because it just wasn't locking properly. But even just changing gears, you've really got to pull the clutch right in and just knock it up so hard to change gear and stuff. But it's just like a lot of people have said, it's like riding a proper bike when you're riding an older bike, and I fully get that now. Like I said in the last episode, I've got a box of goodies which I have here. So this is all just stuff for me to get mid controls on here rather than forwards. Obviously, being a short arse, I struggle to reach the forward controls. So I'm going to put some mids on there. I've also got like a new X-ring or an O-ring chain. They're basically the same thing. The chain on this is just a bit rusty and a bit old, and those O-ring and X-ring chains just kind of keep themselves pre-lubed. So it's a lot less maintenance if you've got chain drive on your bike. I've also got a Dynatech ignition and coil in here, and advanced weights and stuff. So that's a little bit out of my pay grade. So I'm going to take it over to my friend Jay at Heron Cycles in Stowmarket. He's going to fit all of that for me. I've also got bars and risers on the way, and I've got a new seat and shocks as well. So next week, hopefully I'll be able to get the shocks and the new seat on over the weekend, and hopefully take this thing out for a proper ride. Hopefully we'll get some dry weather anyway. But if you guys like this episode, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.